Hi, baby boomer fans. We are Jackie and Janine, the Pfeiffer sisters, and love to talk about the 1950s, inviting you to reminisce with us as we explore experiences of that decade. Grab your favorite malt or Green River. Make sure you are wide awake and get ready to be inspired about the 1950s. Welcome to the 1950s Fun Chat. Hello, everybody. If you notice on the screen, Jackie and I are a little off to the side today, but that's because we have a guest who is sharing some slides of life in the 1950s, and it's going to be fun. So, Jackie, how do you introduce this program today?
Well, I thank you. I just would like to have people note that purple banner on the bottom. Please do go to www.whilethewindmillwatch.com. You'll find all sorts of information about the authors, the vendors, where we might be signing books, the 1950s fun chats, all the previous ones. This is number 167. So you have hours or maybe even days of looking, should you care to do that. And then up on the right hand or left hand corner, depending upon, up in the corner, you'll see our little book, While the Windmill Watched, a Slice of Rural America in the 1950s. And you'll also notice on the bottom a little white spot. That indicates an Independent Press Award in the regional category as the distinguished favorite. Our book was published in 2021, and this award came to us in 2022. So I think we should begin.
You bet.
All righty. We're going to introduce you to Chuck Achter, who has been a guest previous to this, but he has so much to say about the 50s, we just invited him back. He was born in 1947 in Browerville, Minnesota, and he has been involved in education all of his life. He lived in a small community through high school graduation and earned a degree in history and physical education from St. John's University in Collegeville, Minnesota, with the goal of teaching and coaching. He taught and he coached for 5.5 years. While still on an educational track, he became an assistant principal of a high school for 2.5 years, a high school principal for 29 years, a university teacher at Iowa State University for 10 years, and for the past 7 years, he's taught in the OLLI program at Iowa State University. This comes to a total of 55 years as an educator. Chuck and his wife, Brenda, have been married for 49 years. 2 children, Nicole, who lives with her husband, Mark, in Austin, Texas, and Chris, who, with his wife, Katie, have given them 2 granddaughters, Kayla, who's 7, and Kirby, 4. They live in Singapore. So, Chuck, we welcome you back to the 1950s Fun Chat.
Thank you. It's really a privilege to be back with you, and I'm excited to get into some things, and I'll be asking you some questions about what it was like for you when I share what it was like for me, and will the two of you please ask me questions if I'm not explaining it well, or you have questions about what I'm talking about. How's that sound?
Well, just take it away.
Okay. There you go. Well, as I said, I grew up in Browerville. There's Main Street of Browerville in the 50s. And we're going to be talking about some traditions, some fads, some fashions, music, TV, and special events that I experienced during the 50s. And we'll see what the North Dakotians experienced in the 50s.
Dakotians, huh?
Okay, next slide. So last time we didn't quite get into some important people from Browerville. And not that the people there all aren't important, but these people probably, if you have experienced Browerville at all, you've heard Joseph Keselowski, who is a world-renowned sculptor, and he has done some sculpturing. As you can see, there is his picture, and you can see one of the grottos that he's done for at that time, St. Joseph's Church. On your right side, Laverne Spencer has been an author, and she's done a lot of fictional books. People have read her, and she's the one that I'm showing on the bottom is totally about Browerville, and she grew up in Browerville.
Was she in your class, Chuck?
No, she's a couple of years older.
Okay.
In the middle is somebody that you've probably heard about, Tom Brady. His mother, Galen, as you can see him hugging her there, And she's also was our homecoming queen. And there's a picture of her when she became an airline stewardess. She was a senior when I was a freshman, but she happened to graduate from Browerville. I had an unbelievable crush on her growing up. But of course, she's 4 years older than me. The fun part for me was she sang in the church choir, and I just melted every time she sang solo.
Oh,
She was a cheerleader, homecoming queen. She became an airline stewardess, and at that point in time, that was really a big deal.
yes.
And all of a sudden, she married a man by the last name of Brady, and all of a sudden, there was little Tommy Brady being a quarterback at Michigan, and then a quarterback for the New England Patriots and Tampa Bay, and the rest is history. And you've probably seen his mother when they've won the Super Bowl a lot. He loves his parents. He's come back to Browerville a lot. He has an uncle, Galen's brother, who just passed away this year, was still there. Should mention that Galen's dad was my barber. Common people, but he likes to come back to Browerville too. So those are three people we didn't get to last time. So Janine, you could forward it.
Okay.
I want to talk a little bit about some traditions. You can see there, tradition. The one in the middle sort of is almost like Johnny Eaton's garage, where we played basketball all the time. Growing up in Browerville, you played basketball outside all the time. Yeah, in the middle, you'll see a wiffle ball. We love to play wiffle ball at Walt Blankish's. On the bottom of the right, you'll see a ball and a bat. Mace's Lot, I mentioned that last time. We played baseball there all summer, and you'll see a group of us in the 50s on the bottom left who were playing football at that point in time at Mace's Lot. And it was the Rhubarb Nationals with Tom Mace's team and my team with the Southsiders. And we played and didn't need adults. We just played together either on the basketball court, playing baseball or wiffle ball, played together all the time. So that was the first thing I wanted to share with a tradition that we had. We couldn't wait to get outside and play ball. So, okay.
Yeah. And that picture in the middle of the garage, that looks like it could be placed anywhere in mainstream America.
That's right. Yeah. The neat part of Johnny Eaton's, it was an 8-foot basket. So we were little and we could almost dunk at that point in time. We thought we were really big. We all were some pro player or some player that played in the state tournament. I was always Tom Connor, who was a high school player in Browerville who I idolized. So we all had our famous. And then for some reason, I became Big Bob Bruiser during that time, who was in the NBA. So we all had names at that point in time. Yeah.
Well, you said that was an 8-foot tall hoop. What is standard?
10 feet.
Okay.
So it gave us an opportunity to really think we were big at that point in time.
So Big Bob Bruiser, huh?
Yeah. Yep.
I love that.
Next one, please.
Okay.
Well, in Browerville, we're very proud of our veterans. My first thinking of being a veteran was my dad who was part of World War II. My dad would come down on Memorial Day with his uniform on, and he would say, "Boy, unbelievable, my uniform shrunk over the last year." And then he'd go up to Browerville High School, and would have the Memorial Day parade out to the cemetery. But the pictures that I'm showing you are from Browerville. They still do luminaries, and this is from a year ago. 1,400 military people are recognized with luminaries on Veterans Day. So they've carried that tradition all along, and I'm really proud of that. And my hat's off to all the military people.
Yes, yes.
So there's another tradition that just happened this weekend in Browerville. If you look at the picture on the left, this happened early on in the 50s. The ladies making coffee cakes. And I was able to find that picture in the Browerville Blade. I had a friend who went up and helped them make the coffee cakes on Friday, and she took some pictures for us. You'll see the coffee cakes on the bottom. It's a standard. You could like poppy seed. You could like prune, apricot, apple, and cream cheese. When I was growing up, they were $1 each. My mom would go and get a whole bunch of them and freeze them. And now they limit you to 6. They made over 1,200 coffee cakes like they've done in the past. They're $6 now, and you can see people that are making the coffee cakes. But also, I wanted to put a shout out for Barb Spihala, the picture there on the bottom on the right. She just did her 52nd year of doing these coffee cakes. So it's a very special tradition.
Is she the kind of manager of the overall process?
I think she might be. I don't want to speak out of turn, but she's got the experience.
Yes,
we'll go with that. So
do people have to pre-order those coffee cakes?
No. I don't think they let you. You just go and you stand in line, and then you can get 6 at the most per family.
Okay.
So another tradition in Browerville was a lot of get-togethers through the church or through the organizations in Browerville. Bingo parties, card parties, chicken dinners, fireman's dance, those types of things as keeping little town of Browerville together. One of you want to mention in your town, did you have something like this going on as a way for people to gather in your town in North Dakota?
It did. The men's pancake dinner, breakfast. It wasn't dinner though, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The men did everything at the community church, from mixing the batter to making the pancakes and sausages to washing the dishes and cleaning up.
Neat.
Didn't have to do a thing.
Neat. Yeah.
It was a fundraiser for the Minokan Methodist Church. I don't recall that there was ever any fundraiser for the town itself, but a lot of our events, community events, were held at our Minokan Town Hall. That was the place to be, it seemed like.
Neat. Thank you. So also in central Minnesota, north central Minnesota, hunting season and fishing season were huge because we lakes around us and the wildlife around us. People went pheasant hunting. People would come home to go fishing. And a couple of weekends ago in Minnesota, it was the opening of deer season. You'll see the Spihala family there. This was taken in 1967, but this goes on forever, where families come home and they go to their deer shed or deer shack and they spend the weekend and they go on the hunt, but they also spend the time together. So it was really fun to see everybody come home for the weekend and have their family together to either go pheasant hunting or go fishing together or have the deer hunt. So,
do many people come back and go ice fishing?
Yes, they do. Yeah, it's ice fishing is a big event. Yep, it is. Yep.
And you said it was 2 weeks ago that this they all came back for pheasant season
for deer hunting.
Hunting. Okay, was that the same weekend then as the ladies made all the coffee cakes?
That was last weekend. The ladies made all the coffee cakes. They couldn't put both those on the same weekend. No.
There's something going on in Browerville all the time.
That's right. Yep. So a tradition that because we're getting into Thanksgiving. My parents on Thanksgiving time would take my 2 sisters and go to Minneapolis and do Christmas shopping. My grandpa was home alone and I chose to stay home with him. So we had a fantastic Thanksgiving meal. My best guess is to the 2 of you, you didn't have one like I had. Grandpa was the cook and we had TV dinner, turkey TV dinner, and he went to the local bakery and he got a loaf of pumpernickel bread. We had our turkey TV dinner, and then we demolished that loaf of pumpernickel bread with butter. And then he got a pumpkin pie, and I couldn't find one from the bakery, so I just got that frozen one, but it was from the bakery. And then he got Neapolitan ice cream, and he cut the pie in half, and he'd cut that box of ice cream in half, and he'd have half, and I'd have half.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, so.
Did you finish it?
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah. Yep. That was.
And you are right. We did not have that kind of a Thanksgiving dinner.
But I do remember the first look that I ever had at Neapolitan ice cream. All we ever had was vanilla around. And I looked at it and I was just flabbergasted that there were those 3 flavors together. They were so beautiful.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. So another big tradition, family's tradition, was in the 50s when we were growing up, was when the Sears and Roebuck catalog or the Penny's catalog would come, and you couldn't wait to get it, to circle what you wanted for Christmas. That was huge in our family. Next slide, please.
Okay. Did you ever always get what you had circled?
Oh, no.
Yeah. Cost too much money.
Browerville had a couple of hardware stores, and they would bring in toys, and they would, Eaton and Hyde's, the one in the middle, would set up a ping pong table, not to play, but to put the new, go back one, there you go, to put all the Christmas stuff on. You couldn't wait for Toyland to be open so you could go drool. Lots of things going on, but I put a picture of the nuts there. The grocery stores had bins of nuts like that, and it was huge to be able to go and get them and bring them home and crack them and make the floor dirty from the trailings, but to have mixed nuts at the Christmas time. One more, please.
You know what, Chuck? Mom had a bowl that looks just like that. With those nutcrackers and nut picks. Yes, and it was a real family occasion. Well, maybe not so much Dad, but
no, I do remember Dad sitting at the kitchen table cracking the nuts. I do.
Did he as well? Oh, but it was quite a thing, and I that's the first time I ever had a Brazil nut. From something like that. Was Eaton and Hyde a department store?
Yes, it was. Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, and the other thing that was neat, the high school put on a Christmas program. The elementary schools and the 2 Catholic grade schools were able to go to that. We love that. And they actually had the seniors were part of Jesus, Mary, and they got a baby to be a live baby, and Jesus and Mary and Joseph, and the shepherds and the angels on stage. That was always huge. And then on a Saturday, right before Christmas, the commercial club would have cartoons for you to watch up in the high school gym, and Santa Claus would come, and you always got a bag of ribbon type candy and nuts and things like that. And that was just huge to be able to go to that.
Did you ever know who Santa Claus was?
Yeah, it was Bill Ziggin.
Every year?
Yeah, that's right. You bet. Yeah. So living in Minnesota, in central Minnesota, winters were fun. And I put that sled down there because we had a hill called Hilmer's Hill. And the Hilmer boys, Bob was a year older and Dave was 2 years older. They controlled the hill with the sleds. You'd go down and they'd come behind you, and a word called slewing. They'd catch the back of your sled and turn it over and dump you and laugh. And but it was, we would have so much fun doing that. Played a lot of skating. We had a ice skating rink that was open, and my dad was a rural letter carrier. You see the mailbox. I would go with him when it was really snowy and we didn't have school, because he felt like the mail had to be delivered, and I jumped the snowbanks to put the mail in the mailboxes. My favorite thing to remember, and I'll ask you about it, that radiator there in our school. We had radiators like that, and we go out for recess, and we get soaking wet, and we put our mittens and hats, and the smell of the radiator and the hats on. I still have that awful smell in my nose from winter time and having wet clothes coming in from recess.
Yes. Did your dad ever make any comment about, as a mail carrier, about having to deliver those catalogs, those mail order catalogs?
I don't think so, but I know that really loaded down his place. His favorite day, when I include this with Christmas, was on Christmas Eve. Everybody would give him presents, and there would be one guy that at one of his first stops that would be standing out there with a jug of whiskey and a little glass, and he'd pour it, and here's your Merry Christmas gift. But I don't even remember how many boxes of chocolate covered cherries he'd get.
Oh yeah.
Lots of eggs, lots of chickens, those types of things. He would come in with this big smile after he got done with the route that day with big cardboard boxes full of stuff that he got as presents.
Oh,
neat.
how kind.
Yeah.
Jackie, do you recall, we didn't have radiators in our school, did we? I mean, it was cold.
I was just trying to think. So I kind of think we did, because I remember him. I remember the smell, the wool mittens on the radiator. I'm not. Did they have? Maybe they had a plate over the top, a metal plate, so that we didn't see the radiators. But that's a good question.
Yeah, but yes, the smell.
And
the other tradition in Browerville, and I'm anxious to talk to the two of you about, was May 1st. You made May baskets.
We did.
And I can remember, I didn't have an older brother or sister. Wasn't sure about it, and I can remember going to my friend Tom Mace, who lived about a block from me, and saying, "What do you do on May Basket Day?" I mean, I was like in first grade or something like that, because it was coming up. And he said, "Oh, it's really simple, Chuck. You go up to the girl's house, you put the basket down, you knock on the door, and you turn around and start running, but you run really slow. and then you trip and fall, so they have to catch you and give you a kiss."
Yeah.
Well, Tom had good advice, but I didn't ever want to do that. So maybe did you go around from your farm?
Yes, we did. And exactly what you said. Describe it like that.
Yeah. I can so remember taking a May basket to Dennis Trevor because I wanted him to run after me and kiss me, but he never did. I was so disappointed.
Probably his sister opened the door.
But Chuck, was there ever a maypole in your area?
No, I don't. I've seen those, but I don't ever remember having a maypole. Nope.
Yes, we didn't either.
Yeah.
The first one I saw was when my children were in school. They did it.
Do you remember the gas station with the little hose and you went across and ding ding? My great uncle Matt had the standard station a block and a half from our house, and he worked all the time with the ding ding, and he was at a full service. He'd come out and not only give you gas, but check the air in the tires, check the oil, wash the windshield, all of those kind of things. And he had this little coin changer that he had on his belt, and you gave him the money, and if you needed change, he'd give it out of the coin changer. But the big thing for me was it was the place in town that I went and my sisters went, and people from and you're talking a small town, this end of town would go, because he had the best candy counter. He had the penny candies. He had the first pop machine, and this is the original pop machine. If you remember that, you slid the pop, you put the money in, slid it, and pulled it out.
And it always hurt my fingers.
Yeah, that's right. Yep. And I couldn't wait during the summer to have a nickel to go get a popsicle, because I thought it was big time, because you had two sides of a popsicle to eat. So that was a big thing. Yeah.
Did you ever have to share that twin popsicle?
Probably supposed to, but I don't think I did much.
The one thing that I remembered at the gas stations in the 1950s was some of them would offer premium gifts, and there would be a glass enclosed, looked like a little dresser, but it really wasn't. It had shelves in it. And then there were bowls or flower vases or pans in there that if you bought so much gas, then you were able to select a gift from there. And one of those gifts that Mom got was a white bowl. It had big red polka dots on the outside, which was very notable in the 1950s. And I still use that bowl. I just love it.
Neat.
Yeah.
I have seen a bowl like that in antique stores.
Yes.
Neat. Well, the other thing that was traditional in our little town was on Thursdays, the Browerville Blade came out. And on Mondays, if you lived in town, one of the ladies, Mrs. Marlowe, would call and say, "Do you have any news?" And there was also a lady who called the Turtle Creek Township and the Ward News. And you couldn't wait on Thursdays. My mom would sit down and read who visited who on the weekend. And they used the word motored, and so-and-so and so-and-so motored to another town and so came to visit on Friday. It was just to catch up on news. And she'd call on Monday, and my mom would say, Mr. and Mrs. Anton Rolfus from Holdingford were here to visit us this weekend. And then we'd read about it in the news. So did you have a weekly paper?
No, not at Minokan. We had the Bismarck Tribune was a daily paper that we took. But and I do think there was
maybe in the 50s, in the early 50s, because you can probably believe this, but I have clippings from Grandma, and it says, like, Mr. and Mrs. John Zimmerman, daughter of came to visit. I know I have one like that.
Yeah.
And they what did they have to eat? I'm surprised that wasn't in there, or what she wore too.
Maybe.
So football was a big thing in my town. This is a picture of the 1951 team. They were still wearing leather helmets at that point in time, but it was great because we'd get out of school because they didn't have lights. Of 6-man football on Friday afternoons. We'd get out of school to go watch the football team play. Could you give me the next slide, please?
Sure.
So Mr. Dressen came to Browerville and was an assistant coach, and then became the head coach. And he created our first homecoming in 1952. It was huge in town. He was a man who was ahead of his time in our community and was a great man to it. But if you get to the next slide, he talked to the school board and said, and he used an example of a school in a suburb of Minneapolis, Edina, which in the 50s was the place to be. And he said to the school board, the people of Edina value the brains of their students, so they have regular football helmets. They don't have leather helmets. And school board, do you value the boys on our football team? And of course they said yes. So they had to buy new helmets, and we were the first team in that area to have matching pants and matching jerseys to go for football at that point in time.
Yes.
And then
him. Well, that's a feeling of pride too.
We always had you go back one, please, because this is interesting. Then in about 1956, it all of a sudden became in vogue to have a face mask. I use a CPAP machine, and I have like a face mask that I use. But this face mask was put on Mr. Dressen was ahead of people, and everybody, you can see the runner there on the left had a face mask. Well, they went to play Deer Creek, and the Deer Creek coach wasn't going to play because they had face masks at that point in time, and the referees made them play. So interesting, always ahead of themselves.
I guess
how they did things. So we did things. And of course, with the homecoming, this was a great time. I remember I mentioned to you the Rhubarb Nationals and the Southsiders. Well, the Rhubarb Nationals on the right had their own homecoming at that point in time, their own homecoming parade.
Cute
kids. Tommy Mace organized it with all the people from his end of town. They had their parade. They had the Queen, and we had a football game. And fortunate for us, the Southsiders won the football game. We beat them on their homecoming game. So
why did they choose the name of Rhubarb? Is there some significance to that?
I don't think so. I've asked that a lot, and I don't think we remember exactly. Yeah, it's a great name for them. Yep,
it is. Yeah.
I think it's interesting to look at the style of dresses that these homecoming queen candidates wore. All the fluff and the ruffles, and that was part of the 1950s.
Yeah, and it was so fun to go on Thursday night for the coronation, because they'd march in with a football player escorting them, and then they go around and they go up on the stage, and the curtain was pulled, and then it would open up, and the homecoming queen was the first one to be seen. You couldn't wait to see which young girl was the homecoming queen. Yeah.
And was it a popularity contest?
Yeah, it was. I'm a little biased there because there were more rural kids than there were town kids, and typically we voted in packs. So typically somebody from the rural area, which is great, became the homecoming queen.
Yeah.
That's neat. Yep. Yeah. Here's some fads I've found for the 50s. So I'm going to throw it at you two. Were you into any of these fads in the 50s?
Gelatin molds, probably.
We're going to get to that in a second, I think. Yeah.
Oh, Jackie, you had cat eye glasses.
I did. Grade 7. Ugh.
Yep.
And you had saddle shoes, didn't you?
I don't know that was the saddle shoes and the poodles and hoop skirts. Poodle skirts and sock hops. That was for the girls who were in high school, and I didn't participate.
Yeah.
Chuck, did you ever stuff a telephone booth?
No, we just had one telephone booth in town. Yeah, no, we never did that. But I always wanted to have that as that hairdo of the guy on the right.
The duck. That was called the duck bill or something, huh?
Yeah, well, it was another word.
Ducktail.
Ducktail, yes.
Yeah.
Because I love that design. I wanted to have my hair like that. Except my hair didn't grow like that.
And once in a while you still see fuzzy dice, but it is in a car, usually a Corvette, or maybe an older man with gray hair has his fuzzy dice in this.
Yeah.
As a car he couldn't afford when he was a youngster.
Yeah. So the next slide I'll share with you some of the things that were my fads. My parents unfortunately smoked a lot, and they smoked Raleighs so they could save the coupons.
Yes.
I loved trying to mimic them. I buy the candy cigarettes, and I walk around with a candy cigarette. On the right hand side, my grandfather, who lived with us, smoked cigars, and I don't know if you remember the bubblegum cigars. Mm-hmm. I'd love to get a bubblegum cigar. Mm-hmm. Pretend like I was my grandpa. But the big thing in town was collecting baseball cards. Penny for a card, and you got a most awful tasting gum. But yeah, we really did a lot of card collecting. Yep.
Chuck, what would your parents do with those coupons?
Oh, that was a big time. It was sort of like green stamps, and I have one of those coming up. But they collected them for a year. No, it's down the road a little bit.
Okay.
Collected them for a year, and then they had a catalog, and you'd see, and if for so many hundred things, you could get a new lamp, or you could get a scale, or you could get some. And it was always the big discussion. What are you going to get with the Raleigh coupons, and what are you going to get with the green stamps?
Yeah. Did you have to lick those stamps into the books?
I don't think I did. I think that happened to be my mom's job. Yeah. So some favorites for me. I love Dick Clark in the 50s, American Bandstand. I mentioned Tom Connor was my hero. I got a BB gun. Love to go out and shoot BB guns. Bushwhacks. I loved putting bushwhacks on my hair to make it move a little bit. And we'd put baseball cards with clothespins on our bike to make it sound like we were a motorcycle as we biked around town.
How many shampooings did you need to put on your hair in order to get that bushwhacks out?
I don't think we ever did. I think we just left it in there. It sort of caked in. This is
dear.
A neat story on this. It's not the 50s, it's the 60s, but I was a freshman in high school, and the basketball team was playing in the district tournament, and I wasn't able to dress as a freshman. No freshman dressed for the tournament, but the coach asked, and it was going to be the first time that I could ride the fan bus because I wasn't going there as a player, and I was going to be at the game, and I thought, whoa, there are going to be lots of girls on this bus. I better get my butchwhacks out and put my hair down. Really nice. I got home, and the butchwhacks was empty, and it was too late to go down to Mr. Johnson's to get buy it from him at the barbershop. So I noticed that I had a little bottle of Vicks Vapor Rub.
No.
And it was just like butchwhacks in my hair. Needless to say, I sat by myself on the bus. Sat by myself at the game. Yeah, that was the hardest thing. Yeah.
Funny.
But you had clear nostrils.
That's right. Yeah. Okay. Let's go back one slide, please.
Okay, there we go.
This was an important number to my family, and ask you if you remember. Why would this number, do you think, would be important to my family?
Boy, I don't know.
Well, if you go to the next slide, that was our phone number.
90. That's all.
Yeah. We had an operator, and you can see on the red on the bottom, my two sisters and myself. There was our phone, and we'd lift it up and crank it, and the lady, the operator would say, "Number, please," and I'd say, "Give me 133R3, which was Walt, or give me 123, which is the Dressens, or give me 8, which is John Eaton." Did you have a number on a phone out in the country and a number like that?
Yes, we did, but it wasn't like that. It was
okay.
It was more modern.
We had a rotary dial phone.
Okay. You were way ahead of us.
Oh yeah.
Our rotary dial phones didn't come until the 60s.
Oh,
So
really?
this was
And we
big.
got ours in 1960, but I think our grandpa and grandma Pfeiffer had theirs in Bismarck, quite a bit ahead of that
Yes.
too. Yes, it was fun to dial those numbers.
Yep.
Although if you dialed it too much, especially if it was a metal dial and not a plastic one, boy, I remember thinking the tip of my index finger was getting sore just after dialing those 7 numbers.
Oh, so let's quickly go through before we run out of time some culture of the 50s that I want to share. So next slide, please.
Okay.
It was, as you've probably heard, it was a good life in a small town. You can see all the events that were going on. Our house, my mom's bowling team, my mom and her mother and sister. My dad was a rural letter carrier. You mentioned, did I get one of the all-time great presents I got was from my aunt, was that, and I still have it, that fire engine. And there you'll see the picture of my dad with the group marching during the Memorial Day parade. So next slide, please. And it was family life. Family was really big in the 50s. You did things as a family, not only your own family, but your aunts and uncles and cousins were together. That was really huge for our family in the 50s. Next, please. As I mentioned, my grandpa lived with us and was smoking his cigars. He loved professional wrestling and he loved Groucho Marx. I used to sit with him and watch those programs while he smoked, and the cigar smoke came down from the ceiling.
Oh, dear.
Went on. Yeah. And if it was a good program, he smoked a cigar a lot faster. So,
oh, dear.
Yeah. So the family dynamics, it was, like I mentioned, the nuclear family, and it changed in the 50s. The dad was the breadwinner. My dad came home from World War II like millions of other men, and women who were working came and stayed at home, but the dad was the head of the family. Next slide, please. And you were sort of looked at as keeping up with the Joneses. And what kinds of, did you have a new refrigerator? Did you happen to have a television? What did you have? There you see a picture of me. My dad got me a swimming pool,
Nice.
above ground swimming pool, and over wash bucket. But that was big time for me.
You bet. Yes.
And if you lived in Browerville, about 50 miles away was Brainerd, and they had a big Paul Bunyan there. And one afternoon in the summer, my mom would take us to Paul Bunyan land. And when you walked in, kids never noticed this, but when she paid, the person taking your money would say, what's your kid's name? And she'd say Chuck or Barb or Peg. And then when you walked in, Paul Bunyan, a guy in a little booth there, Paul Bunyan's hand would raise and would say, "Hi, Chuck, how are you?" "Hi, Barb, how are you?" "Hi, Peg, how are you?" And you're just amazed that Paul Bunyan knew you.
How many Paul Bunyans are in different little towns in Minnesota?
Oh, many. Yeah, that's and the Babe and the Big Blue Ox. Yep.
Oh, yes.
Yep. Yeah. So, and as I've said earlier, things were around the community, around church, events that went on during the 50s. Celebrations for us were important. Next. And getting a new car. We had 3 car dealerships in Browerville. We had the Chevrolet, we had the Plymouth DeSoto, and we had the Fords. And at that time, they'd bring in the cars and they'd have them in with canvas over them. And on a certain day, they'd take the canvas off so you'd get to see the new cars. Did you have something like, or you probably went to Bismarck for
We
cars?
did.
We
Yeah.
did.
Yes, and I remember because we were customers of Fleck Motor, and they would have, I think it would be on a Friday afternoon where they do the unveiling. And a lot of times those car showrooms had rotating floors
Yep.
on which those cars were sitting.
Yep.
It was quite a presentation.
Yeah, big time. And we'll go through the next. There's all the Fords in the 50s. Okay, and the next.
And the Chevy.
And the Chevys. Yep. And I don't remember if you remember
the
Ford
Edsel.
Yep. They didn't quite make it.
No.
Yeah.
Short-lived. I wonder if there's ever been another car since then that has a history like that.
Yeah.
And so why didn't the Edsel make it?
It just didn't work well, I guess. I don't know.
Maybe used too much gas.
It could have, yeah. And then the Plymouths, those were in the 50s. So Okay, so a big thing in Browerville. All of a sudden, a man built a drive-in, so you could drive up, and rather than go in, the car hop would come out and get your order and put it down. That was huge when that happened in I think it was 1956, if I'm not mistaken. And it was only a block away from my house, so I was a constant sitter around her there to see if it was going to the drive-in. Yeah.
Did the car hops wear roller skates?
No, because it was outside. It was a gravel road there.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. No. And you mentioned the Jello molds in the 50s. So which was your favorite Jello, ladies?
Tupperware.
Yep.
Oh, I would say the one on the lower left because it's whipped. And same way with the green one.
It was cranberry.
Yeah, Mom, we called that
poor man's salad.
Yeah, men's green salad.
Lime Jello with fruit cocktail in it.
Cottage cheese, pineapple, and walnuts.
That's exactly. Yep.
But to look at them, my favorite would be this one in the middle on the right. All those beautiful layers.
So in the 50s, cookbooks came in and faster food to do, but also casseroles came in, and the Good Housekeeping cookbook was important, and Campbell's soup became a very important thing to buy for your casseroles, green bean casserole, tuna casserole, those types of things.
But they weren't called casserole. They were called hot dishes.
Hot dishes or covered dish. Yeah. Depending on where you grew up. Yeah.
I think we always had at least 2 cans of tomato soup and 2 cans of cream of mushroom soup in the cupboard in case Mom wanted to make a hot dish.
Yep. Yeah. 50s was an important time of marketing products, and new products came out in the 50s. It was a really, really big time for people to start getting different kinds of food. I remember, especially on the bottom right hand, getting the little small box of cereal, and you got to choose rather than getting a big box of cereal. The cake mixes, Campbell's soup, all those types of things. Yes. And we mentioned green stamps. Did your parents? Did you go to a store that had green stamps?
You bet we did. Piggly Wiggly.
Well, Red Owl grocery store.
Red Owl.
That's right. In Browerville, it was Red Owl. Roy Thompson's Red Owl.
Okay.
And then, but Janine, then Piggly Wiggly had the Gold Bond.
Gold Bond. What was the other one? Yeah.
The Super Value had Gold Bond, I thought. Okay. Yes, there was another green stamp of some sort. I can't remember what the name of it was.
I grew up thinking that you didn't have to pay for groceries because my mother would write out on a list for the groceries, and I'd walk down to Thompson's grocery store, give him the list, and he'd get all the stuff, put them in a bag, and I'd go home with it. My sisters would say the same thing. And I didn't realize that at the end of the month, my mom would go in and write a check for all the groceries, but I completely thought they were free for a moment. Television came in the 50s, huge for people. You can see right before the 50s how there weren't many televisions in the United States, and within a matter of years, it just exploded. It changed everything. So.
Well, and people who didn't have television sets, I recall, would go downtown and stand in front of a furniture store or a hardware store and watch TV because the TV was in their store windows.
That's right. That's right. So I've put together a lot of different TV programs of the 50s, but I wondered if you can go to the next one, if Saturday nights in your household, the Lawrence Welk. Yep.
Yes,
very much so.
With the lovely little Lennon sisters.
The Lennon sisters, and I had a big crush on one of them at that point in time.
Oh, which one? Which one?
Oh, I liked Janet because she was young.
Okay.
And I was young in the 50s. So.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So Saturday mornings was huge to watch. I'd get up and we watch the test pattern to warm up the TV before the program started. And there were the programs that you were on in the 50s.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay. And the kids programs were big. And if any of these really sticks out to you, let me know. Family programs came in, Leave It to Beaver and the other family programs. And the mother always wore a dress and had the meal ready and the paper ready for the dad when he came home from work.
Yep.
And the kids always had some kind of problem to work through with the dad. Yeah. And the father knew best. That's right. Yeah.
I just watched a little bit of the ending of Leave It to Beaver yesterday on TV. There's a channel that brings back those old television shows.
Yeah.
And it seems so simple compared to the shows that were.
Oh, that's right. Yep. Yeah. I Love Lucy and the Honeymooners sort of broke the mold of the marriage family type things. They were really popular in the 50s. And Westerns were huge. You can see my sister Barb in the middle, top middle, got her Western outfit to wear. But yeah, that was a huge thing to watch in the 50s. Did you have cap guns?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Well, actually, I didn't, but our neighbor Dennis did.
Oh, okay.
The same one who I wanted to kiss me.
Yeah. But boys got guns, girls didn't.
We got dolls.
Okay, got it. Crime programs were part of the 50s.
Mm-hmm.
And the Ed Sullivan Show, huge. Ed Sullivan was the longest running type variety show. He had all kinds of entertainment on. If you go to the next slide, do you remember the person spinning the plates when you have those on? Keep them going, and Tocho Jibo and all those different people. And I've found a picture of Elvis there on the left. Mm-hmm. That was the night that they could only show Elvis from the waist up. He had been on before with his gyrations.
So the bottom was censored, huh?
Yeah, that's right. Yep. Yeah. Soap operas, they went from the radio to television in the 50s.
Mm-hmm.
And you had to watch them because there was no such thing as a recorder, so you had to watch them live at that point in time. Mm-hmm. Quiz shows also moved from radio to television. And in the 50s, the $64,000 question, that seemed like a lot of money at that time.
Oh, yeah.
And that's, if you remember back, a lot of those shows were fixed and they got in trouble. And that's when the quiz shows sort of lost their traction on TV.
Mm.
Yeah. I thought Queen for a Day was really a neat show.
Yeah.
And you can still see that on TV, on the computer, too. You can go back in. And that's another show. It just seems so simple compared to our television.
Ads and marketing, because of TV, ads became real important, and it wasn't always human beings in the ads. If you grew up in Minnesota, the Ham's Bear from the land of sky blue waters, for Ham's Beer, Alka-Seltzer and Ajax, and those cartoon type characters were important in the cartoons. In the advertising. Mm-hmm. Cigarettes advertising was all over the place in the 50s.
Mm-hmm. And I think, wasn't there one of the brands of cigarettes that says your doctor wants you to choose?
Right.
Yeah, I was looking. Yes, you're right, but I could not find.
Was it Marlboro? That was the cowboy one, but
the Marlboro. If you're a Marlboro man, and they have the cowboy
right.
on it. Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it was Viceroy. I don't know what it was, but Boy,
there's as you'll see, there's also one ad on there with a baby, and you know, mother smoking with the baby
Right.
and things
Yeah.
like that. Yep.
Oy, oy, oy.
Yeah, yeah. Ma and Pa Kettle in the 50s. We didn't have a theater in Browerville. During the summer, they put up a screen in the park, and on Saturday nights, Ma and Pa Kettle were showing. He'd bring a blanket and watch the movies. Huge thing to do, free movies. Yeah. Here's some the favorite movies in the 50s. Do you remember going to any of those?
Mm-mm. We didn't go to very many movies.
No.
Okay.
We went to Old Yeller and Seven Brides for Seven Brothers. That's all I can recall.
Okay. Interesting. There's the top movies in the 50s if you look at them. Ben-Hur, I remember that. I could not go to, that's when they rated movies. I couldn't go to some of them because they weren't allowable for kids to go to. Yeah. The jukebox. Did you have a place with a jukebox?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Did you get 5 plays for a quarter or 1 play for a nickel?
Well, do you remember, Jackie?
No, because usually your date paid for it.
Oh, okay. Okay. So, and I mentioned American Bandstand earlier, but what I wanted to ask you, if you were going to put in a nickel or a quarter, who would you want to listen to in the 50s? Do you remember?
Maybe Ricky Nelson?
Ricky Nelson.
Fabian?
Annette.
Annette.
Yeah, Ricky Nelson and Garden Party. Yeah, that was Yeah. The Day the Music Died.
Buddy Holly.
Yeah, that right here in Iowa. Yep. Yeah. So here, the big rock and rollers, when all of a sudden music changed to go to rock and roll. Yep. And the top songs, look at how they changed. In 1950, it was Good Night, Irene. And all of a sudden, Heartbreak Hotel, All Shook Up from Elvis, Valero, The Battle of New Orleans. I always liked that one for some reason.
That was on the radio constantly, it seemed like, on KFYR radio.
Yeah. And the last thing I've got for us is, did you go through a counterculture at all in your community with people sort of going against what was going on? Engineer boots came in, the leather jackets came in. We had the Wild One with Marlon Brando and James Dean. Did you go through?
I don't know. We're too busy doing chores to do anything like that.
Yes.
We had manure on our boots.
Yes.
Good answer. I remember I wanted to put the cleats on my shoes. I couldn't get boots. And Tom Mason and I found thumbtacks, and we put them on the heels so we could sort of make noise.
Yes.
That way, yeah.
Did you ever put thumbtacks the sharp side up on the seat of a girl you didn't like?
No, I don't think so. I was pretty out of it when it went to those kind of things. Yeah.
Well, that's good to know.
Yeah, Chuck, this has been so much fun. This trip down memory
thanks for laughing with me and going through the times.
Yes.
What anything stick out that I missed from the 50s that you?
You were very inclusive. I really admire everything you collected there. Spot on.
Yeah. I just want to share one, if I don't mind, one last thing. A tradition I forgot to put in. We had growing up as a Catholic, midnight mass, and that was huge on Christmas Eve. And you go to midnight mass, and I mentioned Galen Johnson. She sang a solo, and I would just swoon at that. I was an altar boy at that point in time. But after midnight mass, another family, the Dressen family or the Achter family, would invite. Every year we took turns going to one of their house one year, our house another, and church would get over with at 1 a.m. And if we went to our place, my mom would have a huge ham ready to eat, and wild rice salad and all those kind of things. And they sat around and talked. Went to dressings. It was the same thing, a huge ham. But the interesting thing, because I still get together with a couple of the Dressen brothers, every year we heard the same stories. And the big one was, it happened that the Mr. Dressen and my dad were two of the 5 Knights of Columbus bowlers who won the state tournament bowling one year. And every year we had to listen to them replay the bowling adventure.
Oh, dear.
Well, if the families were and the children were busy at that time of the night, did that allow Santa Claus to put presents under the tree?
I think so, because I think that my grandma and grandpa were always there, and they had instructions what to do. And it would go till like 4 a.m. And we lived on Highway 71, and of course there were no cars. And when we would go home from Dressens, which was about a block away, we had this tradition of walking right down the middle of the highway to go home. And they would, when they'd leave our place, they'd walk right down the middle of the highway to go home. So and that went on until my mother passed away in it would have been 96 or 97. So from the 50s, that long, every other year, that was a huge tradition. And so and we're getting into Christmas. Did your family have any traditions at all for Christmas like that?
Not walking down the highway that way. No.
We would always go to church on Christmas Eve. Well, not always, but as we got older. In the 50s, let's see. In the 50s.
Well, we'd go to Grandpa and Grandma's house, and then we'd get in the car and look at the Christmas lights around the town of Bismarck. Yeah. And Mom and Dad were at a homemaker's Christmas party. So, and that was our tradition.
So then did we stay overnight with Grandpa and Grandma? Oh, okay. Yeah.
Neat.
There was a card party and probably a progressive supper is what they would do.
And they'd end up at our house and they'd dance to records. This was the only house that had a cement floor, wasn't dirt.
In the basement. Yeah.
In the basement. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yep. So Jackie and I would have to do some cleaning that day in order to get ready for the Homemakers Club and their husbands.
Oh, hey, thanks for allowing me to share. It's really a privilege to be able to be with you. Yep. We went a little longer than we should have. I apologize for that.
That's okay. There's a lot to cover in the 50s.
Yeah.
Thanks, Chuck.
You're welcome.
Yes. And Jackie, can you close us out today?
Well, all I'm going to say is I'm glad that you joined us, our viewers, and tell your friends, even your relatives, about the 1950s Fun Chat. So till next time, toodaloo.
Bye-bye.